Welcome to Fandom Schmandom, the fandom podcast that covers everything you love and more. I'm Sam Williams on a new microphone.
And I'm Sierra Obermark on my same microphone. Today's episode, we will be eloquently elucidating about Stranger Things Season 4, Episode 9, the finale.
Woo, the finale. Okay, without further ado, we will, as Roger Smith says, dive on in. And because it's the finale of the biggest show right before the final season, we're skipping our Get Up to 88 story recap because we'll be discussing our entire episode as we dutifully drive to Dunkin's for some munchkins.
Find your donut holes. It's our Knives Out category where we sleuth out which 3 storylines are the most vital to pay attention to.
We have our first storyline, the USSR. The second storyline, the plan. The third storyline, the mind fight. And then a bonus, but we'll get there when we get there.
So the first storyline, USSR. While waiting for Yuri to stop messing about stalling, Joyce and Hopper finally have the kiss we've all been waiting for.
Woo, 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 woo. Cringe to all 12-year-olds everywhere.
But, thankfully for all 12-year-olds everywhere, it is interrupted by the call from Owens that they have been waiting for.
Good.
Well, they don't need to get back to Hawkins, they decide. They need to get back into the prison to destroy the particles or shadow monster because it is connected to the hive mind. Unfortunately, the Demogorgon is still loose in the prison. Scratch that. All the demos are loose, and so is the shadow, which is in them. Antonov, or Enzo, finally has convinced Yuri to stop being a coward and get the helicopter going. Hop has a plan, weirdly a similar plan to the plan, and he will be bait, draw the demos into the fenced area where he already almost died. Joyce will then turn the fence back on to trap them all, and Murray will flambe them from above. Joyce is understandably fearful that this is going to turn into another Bob scenario, and it almost does as Hop is attacked by the Demogorgon, but Joyce saves him by using the zap-dap-dap-a-dap on the demo. They lead the dogs and Gorgons to the pit where Murray roasts them as planned. One Demogorgon survives the flambe, and Hop is out of fire and bullets, but good thing he has a dope sword. So, Sam.
Yes.
Why is this all so important?
Let me educate you. Yeah? I educate you now. Okay. Das ist gut. Sorry to all the German people out there. I apologize. Okay, so the reason why this storyline is so important is because it gives us a reason to be caring about what's going on in Russia, which seems to be a little bit of kind of what season 4 is this finale is a lot of like, hey, we're in 3 different locations, and we all know that Hawkins is the only thing that actually matters. So here's 2 other reasons why you might be interested in Russia and the desert. So, essentially, we're focusing in on the fact that the shadow monster / the particles Sierra and I were sort of like losing our minds about the last couple episodes. They are alive and well, I suppose. They seem healthy as particles go. And that means that the hive
judge the health of particles.
I'm sure some scientists in a microscope could be like, ah, yes, good. But the hive mind being alive in Russia means that they can hurt the shadow monster, which they don't know is also kind of Vecna, and that hurt will translate to weakening the force at large. So we know that because Vecna is sort of plugged in everywhere, that by hurting a Demogorgon or a Demodog or the hive mind itself in any way, shape, or form is going to weaken the whole process overall, which is pretty important information for us to know going into season 5, knowing that we can have people placed all over town and attacking the hive mind, and it's going to be weakened. So this is vital information for that reason, and also it gives us some action back in Russia without the whole thing just being like, Hopper, Joyce, Murray, and Enzo are in a plane with Yuri, traveling back to Hawkins. And Will, Jonathan, Eleven, Mike, and Argyle are in a van traveling back to Hawkins. We'll spend 6 seconds on each, and the rest of it will just be trying to flambe Vecna themselves. So, but that information about the hive mind being there and them remembering that we can hurt here in order to help save the kids back there is really important for us to understand. Also, the romantic tension that's been building for 4 seasons finally has its climactic, if unsatisfying moment. And although that maybe not be integral to the Vecna storyline, although there is some allusion to the fact that maybe love is more powerful than hate in even Vecna and Eleven's world, this moment between them is important for the fandom rather than just the plot itself.
Yes, exactly. I also think one part of this storyline that still confuses me a little bit, but I feel is fairly important, is the emphasis that the particles are in them. The particles have gone into the Demogorgons, the Demodogs, etc. And I feel, although I don't fully understand what that is creating plot-wise and what that entails or why that is vital, I do think that it is important that the particles can and do go into these creatures.
Right.
Potentially it's creating a stronger connection because Vecna has more direct control over the particles or shadow monster being, and therefore if that goes into all of the demos, then all of the demos are under more direct control by Vecna. That seems to be the main draw there. As to why it's important, I would like to know officially.
Yes, totally. That is an interesting point about the particles. That the fact that, okay, so we have these inanimate bodies sort of suspended. They're maybe alive in the goo, but maybe also not alive in the goo. And that the particles going in do some sort of control that connects them into the hive mind. And without being that, they're kind of just their own beast. They're their own other dimensional beings that are on doing their own thing versus if it's Vecna controlling them because the particles are in, which kind of goes back to the season 1 theory of like the Demogorgon and or Vecna is the one who takes Will. But it was actually a Demogorgon, but Vecna was controlling it. So that I hadn't really thought much about that. That's a great point, Sierra. Our second storyline is the plan. Phase 1. The older teens, which are Nancy, Steve, Robin, and Eddie, plus Eddie's little sidekick, Dusty Buns, go into the Upside Down and meet Erica at the playground. She signals Max and Lucas. So here is a good note. Erica has located Vecna within the house and heads to signal everyone to begin. However, while she's signaling, overzealous citizen number 1, which is the guy at one of the episodes that's like, you heard Jason the basketball dude? Let's go hunting for this freak. It's not an exact quote, but it's the spirit of what he says.
It's pretty close.
So, overzealous citizen number 1 sees her, Erica, doing all this, and alerts the basketball bros. During this time, Steve, who just cannot help himself while they're in mortal peril, professes his love to Nancy, while Robin is out finding their way to the house in the Upside Down. They find it, and then have to avoid vines as they climb their way up. Phase 2. Max baits Vecna. So Max convinces Vecna to take her, and then runs into her memory of the Snowball Middle School Winter Dance, where Dustin is left by his lonesome, and it's one of his worst memories ever. But for Max, she is with Lucas for the first time, and they kiss. But of course, then her memory starts to turn as Vecna finds her. During this time, Jason, while Max is being sort of mind-robbed, Jason comes into the house and finds Lucas and Max, and he draws a gun on Lucas, ordering him to wake Max up. And Erica, just so that we can know that Erica can't do anything during this time, is tackled by basketball bro number 1. Phase 3. Dustin and Eddie draw the bats away. After prepping the trailer for combat, Eddie goes onto the roof and absolutely shreds Master of Puppets to lure the demo bats away. Eddie and Dustin escape into the trailer once it's clear the bats are distracted and fight them for a time before Dustin escapes back to Hawkins. But Eddie decides to buy them more time and cuts the rope leading back up into Hawkins, taking off on his bike to lure the bats farther away. During this time, Nancy, Steve, and Robin are attacked and trapped by the vines, which, who could have seen that coming? Everyone. That's right, everyone could. Max has been found, and Vecna forces her to see the terrible situation all her friends are in, which keep that in mind for later discussion. Lucas tries to reason with Jason, but after that plan fails, he realizes he never wanted to be like Jason in the first place, and attacks him. The natural response.
Natural instinct.
I don't want to be like you. Punch! The distraction of the fight gives Erica a chance to fight back too. Dustin jumps back through the gate in Eddie's trailer and subsequently breaks his ankle and runs/hobbles after Eddie, who is fighting the demo bats alone. Never fear, Max. Elle is here. But Max is already risen and partially broken boning when Elle battles and throws Vecna away. Max falls to the ground where Lucas catches her, as he's already taking care of Jason in the meantime. Vecna is being thrown around by Elle, and that causes the vines to release the older teens. Phase 4. Flambe. Steve, Nancy, and Robin burn and shoot Vecna multiple times with Molotov cocktails, thank you to the Russians, and a shotgun that Nancy has, because she's Nancy. He's shot and burned so much that he falls out the window, but when they look for his body, it's gone. Dustin reaches Eddie at last and holds him as he dies. Cue the sad Obermark.
Dun, dun, dun.
And he promises to be the new shepherd for his lost Hellfire sheep. Which also, what a cool mascot that would be. A Hellfire sheep? Love it. Erica gets into the house to see Max is awake, but Max can't see or feel anything. And Lucas begs her to hang on. But time is up. The clock chimes 4 times, and the gates open, cutting Jason in half during this and spreading across the ground to converge at the center of Hawkins, creating the gate to Vecna and Hell.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's the Overmark. That's the death sound. Dun, dun, dun!
I mean, a lot of people died during the gate opening, so...
Well, keep the Overmark then.
Dun, dun, dun. All right.
So, Sierra, what is so important about this 4-phase dessert to flambe plan?
Other than everything. Let's get to the basic details that really make this vitally important. So we have this plan, which is a great plan, and honestly gets them exactly where they need to go, which is right in front of Vecna at a time when he's vulnerable. That in and of itself, very important to be able to meet him when he is in a position where he is not in full power, I suppose. And so when he's distracted by one thing, they can go in and find his, what they think is an essentially helpless body, as his mind is off doing all of the other things of chasing Max and fighting Elle. However, I think another really important thing about this is that he is pretty, not necessarily indestructible, but pretty indestructible.
Yeah.
He is set on fire, he is shot multiple times, and he is still alive. As much of an alive situation as Vecna is right now, it's kind of one of those not really sure how much is still human, how much is still living, and how much is pure telepathic energies at this point. I also think just the general fate of all of our characters is really in the balance here. Obviously, we have the very emotional and touching Eddie and Dustin sequences where Eddie is the only one of the main crew to officially perish during this plan, which is pretty brutal, but also potentially something we could have seen coming because the kind of most loved new character in each season tends to be that person. So it's no less upsetting, however. And I also think that the show does a really good job in this whole section about showing the stakes, because it does really feel like we could lose a lot more of them.
Yes.
And I'm almost disappointed that we don't.
Yeah,
but
kind
I
of.
get it. I get it, but at the same time, I am a little bit disappointed that we don't. Now, granted, Max is not in good shape, and while alive, barely. And technically wasn't, and now is. We'll get there. But we have really high stakes for all of these characters. Each one of them is in a life-threatening situation, and I also think the fact that not all of them are in these life-threatening situations specifically because of Vecna, thinking of mainly Lucas here, is also very interesting because it's showing that not only do we have this main storyline that we're following and this main villain and everything, but we also have the rest of the population at large involved in this. It's not just an insular event that's taking place just within this group of people. There are other people who are in the town or in the world who are affected by this. And I think seeing Jason caught up in the middle of what he doesn't understand, he thinks he understands, he doesn't understand, and then ends up dying because of it, very much leads us towards the fate of Hawkins, and then also going into what season 5 will be with, I expect that we will see much more of the impact that this event has had on the general surroundings. Yeah. And not just Hawkins itself, but the community at large in Indiana, in the United States, something of that nature.
Totally. I think you bring up Jason, and I think that's really interesting because this storyline also shows the hubris of overconfidence. And I forget what the effect is called, but it's really interesting to me that in the 90s at some point there was this bank robber who went into banks completely no face coverings. And he looks right at the camera, and he does this at a couple different banks. And when he's arrested, he's like, there's no way you could see my face. Because lemon juice alters the camera in some way, shape, or form. Like the actual film, you can use lemon juice to blur it. And so he was so confident that by putting lemon juice all over his face, it would block it from a security camera. And there's a name for this effect, but essentially it is the study of if you know way too little about something, you have a much more strong likelihood to be confident that you know everything about it. And that to me is what Jason is demonstrating here, is the sort of the layman's normalcy and how much hubris you can have with that. In other words, when you don't know but you think you know, you're going to have way too much confidence. And he walks into something that he does not know. And I think that's a really cool moment. And of course, Lucas has that moment with him where he's like, I thought I wanted to be just like you, talking to Jason. And then I realized that normalcy is psychotic. this idea of trying to fit in to be something that you're not is so against human, like your innate humanness, that to do so is psychotic, which is a very strong message. And it's coming from people who are writing a fantasy show that's also horror and D&D all put into one. Like, they're probably coming from a background similar to you and I, where we're like, nerds are great. I don't understand why people are hating on nerds. And I also think that moment is a much better version of the same sort of storyline that they were going for in season 1 with the Troy, I'm going to cut out this guy's baby teeth, which was so overdone, right? Like these normal jock bully things that are absolutely psychotic. And you get like the same level of crazy where Jason is like, I'm pulling a gun on you to try and kill you because I don't understand what's going on. But it's so much better planned out and so much more well-deserved for the moment. And so I really, that Jason moment to me is so important for what the show is kind of talking about. And also, this sense of normalcy and wanting to be normal is what causes Vecna to be so sort of out of his mind.
Right.
So I think that's a really compelling sort of subtextual part of this whole story. Of course, the actual battle plans around like his body will be completely available to attack when he's out attacking Max is a huge part of the information that we must know and get to see, as well as the ability for 11 to piggyback in such a way where she's fighting inside Max's head. Of course, that messes up Max quite a bit, but it's really, really, really important information for us to know. So those couple of things, there's so much in there. You could go on and on and on, but we must, alas, keep it under 6 hours.
It is... I did look it up. It is the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to do a little bit more research. It is fascinating. Well, speaking of Elle, our third storyline, the mind fight. So, Argyle has a plan.
Finally.
What a pull from Argyle here. Mr. Tire Treads equal military vehicles has a plan to get Elle into a sensory deprivation tank, and Elle has the plan to piggyback into one's mind using Max's mind, which sounds very complicated, and good on her. Jonathan and Will, meanwhile, kind of have this much-needed heart-to-heart, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was a really nice moment. Elle, though, is the important part here. She hops in, she finds Max, and she gets to this memory of Max skating as a child, but there is evidence of the snowball within this memory.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Elle stands there. Yes, it's very, very interesting how she's able to kind of follow Max through. She then stands at the DJ booth for the snowball for entirely too long. Because where the absolute poop nuggets is Elle, and what is she doing just standing there? She takes her sweet time, but just as Vecna is about to fully kill Max, Elle grabs him using her powers and throws him, and the fight begins. Vecna goes from using 3 fingers to 5 fingers. And therefore, Elle is seriously outmatched. He throws her into his lair, and she is pinned by vine tentacles. And Vecna forces her to watch Max become the final victim.
Yeah.
We get Vecna's final story, how he found the shadow monster once 11 had forced him through to the Upside Down. And he formed the shadow monster into the image he wanted, which is why it looks so spidery. He used it to attack once 11 had opened the gate after she touched the Demogorgon, and then he used it again to build the army in order to gain 11's power and open gates of his own. It looks like all is lost. Eddie is pinned down and dying. Erica can't get to Lucas, who is being choked out by Jason. Hop is being attacked by a Demogorgon. Steve, Nancy, and Robin are all being strangled by vines. And in this moment, Mike calls out to Elle, giving her a rousing speech about how much he loves her. Oh. She fights back, and she throws Vecna away from Max, holding Vecna in place and giving her friends time to finish him. He vanishes from Elle's sight as he burns. Elle joins Lucas in crying over Max, just trying to hug her friends, and then 11 heals her?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Sam.
Yes. What would you like to ask?
I would like to ask, besides my heals, major questions, what about this section do we really need to keep in mind? Why is this so important?
All right, I'll tell you the one thing that we don't need to keep in mind is anything that Mike says. Actually, that's so untrue. Okay.
Yes.
So we can understand that Elle is piggybacking into Max's mind and they're having a fight within somebody else's mind that messes somebody up. That could be a new setting that we have for mind fights moving into season 5, especially if Will comes in and has some mind fights, or if 8 comes back in.
Right.
There's a big theory right now that 8 is hinted at the beginning of this season. There's a moment where the D&D group, Hellfire, is playing for their championship moment, and the basketball team is playing for their championship moment. And Vecna, the actual villain set up by Eddie in Hellfire, is being taken out, and Dustin's the only one who can do it. He rolls, what number? 11. And does it work? It does not. But at the exact same moment, Lucas rises up and takes a shot and wins the championship. What number is he wearing? 8. So there's some theory out there that people are saying, well, you have to have 8 in order to help take down 1. 11 can't do it by herself. So we might have 8 coming in. We might have new number 12, Will, coming in and with his power. So we might have multiple stages for mind fights or mind transportations or mind piggybacking in some way, shape, or form. The fact here that Vecna has not used 2 hands, he's gone from 3 fingers to a whole hand in his fight, is also worth a notice that we've got maybe only half of Vecna's powers being used is quite terrifying. In terms of Max and Elle, it does seem that Elle heals Max. Mm-hmm. How? Well, we have to look back a little bit to Mike's rousing speech. So we've got benched Will, because Will apparently is going to be so important for season 5 that they had to really bench him for the entirety of season 4. So Will's big moment is telling Mike that he's got this big moment of telling Elle that she's this big moment and that he loves her. That's how many degrees removed Will is from this entire story. So Will tells Mike, you gotta keep going, you gotta keep pumping her up. You're the heart, you're the heart, you're the heart. And he's like, okay, I'm the heart. I love you, Elle. I know I haven't said it in over a year, but I love you. And I'm just so scared that you're gonna dump me because I'm a terrible loser. Well, no, he doesn't say that, but
he insinuates,
he intimates, he alludes to his loserdom. So he has this big speech, and Elle, zerped up with feelings of not hate, like she was in season 2, but love, is able to overcome Vecna at that moment, starting this chain reaction of people starting to win instead of dying, which is good. So thanks be to Mike for a little MVP moment there of getting the ball rolling on Elle saving everybody else. He is the springboard to her VP status. So then Elle, sad, mad, while Max is dying, and then has this moment of determination that seems to come with a moment of calmness and serenity that she then uses to heal Max's body.
Right.
But maybe not her mind. That has yet to be determined. It may be that Vecna has absorbed Max like everybody else, but the body remains healthy. Because remember, he holds on to everybody with him. That's what Brenner tells us, and that's what Vecna tells Nancy. So we'll see. Does Max need to be unlocked from some sort of mind palace of Vecna? We'll not know. Then the real sort of origin stories about Vecna that he sort of Bond villain monologues to L. So, Vecna has never been to another dimension. L is the one who has that power. L, as a small 8-year-old, something around that, forces Vecna against this wall and accidentally pushes him into another dimension. Dimension X is what it's called. Mm-hmm. This dimension ends up being the Upside Down, but it is not the Upside Down as we know and see it. If you go back and you look at those clips, it's more like Vecna's house that Max draws out. It's sort of this red color. It's not this imprinted Hawkins on the Dimension X. It seems, my theory is, of course, that Will is the one who creates this. Will's mind is so powerful that it imprints on Dimension X, and that is what creates the upside down, sort of like Dark Hawkins version. But it's not. So he goes to Dimension X, and that's where he meets, or if you watch the play, which we'll talk about next episode, he re-meets the Shadow Monster. There, he and the Shadow Monster form some sort of partnership that he's kind of in charge of, and create this army and this future moving forward. But he himself cannot leave. He cannot leave Dimension X / the Upside Down. He needs somebody else to open the door. That's L's special power. And so when L opens the door, he's able to very quickly force his presence back into our world. Mm-hmm. But he keeps getting pushed back, and he keeps getting pushed back. And so he realizes he needs to absorb L's power. So that weird goo thing that's in her leg at the end of season 3, when she gets attacked and is weakened severely, that seems to have done the trick, where now Vecna can open his own portals. That doesn't answer Sierra and my question from season 1, which is how are the Demogorgons opening their own portals? Right. Is it just weak gates that Demogorgons can pop through, or is it Demogorgons controlled by Vecna that he using knows particles. Soft sports? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like what's happening there? We still don't know. But that's it, essentially. In that last part, all that sort of Shadow Monster stuff of like, I was stuck here, I formed up with the Shadow Monster, it's been me the whole time, which I have a question for you, Sierra. When you first watched this, did you go, yes, excellent, I'm so glad that this has been Vecna the whole time, or were you like me, kind of a bit disappointed that the Shadow Monster seems to be an underling working for a bigger boss?
A little disappointed.
Yeah.
It was a little, well, not to draw a comparison to another franchise, but it was a little Palpatine to me. Turns out, again, it was Palpatine all along. It does bother me just a little bit when we just can't have multiple villains. I get maybe trying to lean away from a monster of the week type of theme of this season has this villain, and this season has this villain, and this season has this villain, by saying, oh no, there was a plot, there was a mastermind behind it all. A little Moriarty, I suppose.
Yeah, very.
As well, of, all of these villains are operating, but they all report to the same big bad. It's difficult for me. I was a little let down. I think that if maybe we had more overt Vecna mentionings throughout the first few seasons, it wouldn't have bothered me as much, but it did feel slightly Deus Ex Machina of, hey, this guy's actually controlled the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to be more, because the Shadow Monster is a very compelling, Mind Flayer in and of itself is a very compelling, not character per se, but you know what I mean. So that villain through silence, that complete unknown is such a terrifying concept. And yes. I think I'm right there with you where, we saw in season 3 the bell ringing. Right?
And we both went, whoa, 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 whoa. On a rewatch, that's crazy. And I've got another bell ringing sort of further along in our discussion that we'll talk about, where it's like, okay, so they have been planning some sort of Vecna-ish thing the whole time. But I think it's like, it's so Vecna-like and so Vecna tiny hidden for like rewatch sake rather than a build. In season 3, you start to get a little bit of it, and then season 4, it's just so heavy. Like, here he is, this is the guy, and then to just be like, it's been him the whole time. That moment is supposed to be this huge revelation. And through the fans that we talk to, I haven't found very many people that were like, oh my gosh, like, what a mind catastrophe that was for me. I just was overwhelmed and I had no idea. And it's more like, oh, okay. And I think that's because we all hope that the Mind Flayer has some sort of autonomy. Yeah. And so I hope a little bit that they retcon this and that the Shadow Monster, the Mind Flayer, does have some. It certainly seems so with the play. To tease a little bit about what we'll be talking about next episode, Vecna's been to Dimension X one time before and connected with the Mind Flayer. And that is what seems to give him his powers. So it seems like there's a little bit more of a tit for tat between the two of those. And the influence that the Mind Flayer has on him seems to be where a lot of the darkness comes from. So I don't know that Vecna's being entirely truthful when he's like, I'm the one who's been controlling this the whole time.
Oh, okay. But how, as much as I was slightly let down by Vecna was behind it the whole time, if it does turn out the Mind Flayer is behind it the whole time and essentially created and molded and used Vecna to be able to do all these things, that would be interesting.
I would be very happy with that.
I would be very, very happy with that being an outcome here.
Yeah, certainly. But we'll see. We'll see.
We shall.
We are so aligned about our thoughts on Stranger Things. Somebody out there right now is being like, no, it should be Vecna the whole time. And both of us are like, no. If it ends up that the Mind Flayer has actually orchestrated this whole thing and Vecna thinks he's in charge, and actually at the end of season 5, it's going to be Vecna sort of turncoating on the Mind Flayer, and in fact, you know, he's only been like the assistant and he thinks he's been in control. You and I will love that. But there are definitely people out there who are like, no, it makes more sense if it's reflecting Elle and Brenner and all this stuff and being like, well,
right.
Sure. Little column A, little column B.
Argue with us.
In the comments.
Join in the comments.
Please.
So, our bonus little mini storyline. 2 days later, after all of this has taken place, there is a mass exodus from Hawkins. Right as the Californian and Russian crews arrive and everyone is back together again. We are reunited in moments that range from nice to absolutely sob-worthy. Everyone is helping out with the relief efforts, and the standout moment of this is Dustin commiserating with Eddie's uncle. Absolutely beautiful moment.
Maybe his best acting performance on the show. Dustin's actor.
I may agree with you.
So
I feel
good.
like I need to pinpoint a few other moments because he does have quite a number, but it is very understated and beautiful.
Yeah.
However, everyone begins to notice an odd gray snowfall outside, and those who know that it's particles from the Upside Down. Hop, Joyce, Will, Mike, Elle, Nancy, and Jonathan see nature dying, becoming corrupted, just as it is in the Upside Down. And we roll credits.
Ugh. I just imagine one of those characters has snapped a photo with the particles and captioned it, "If you know, you know."
If this took place in 2025, yes.
Right, of course.
100%.
No cell phones, no hashtags, no X, no nothing. Okay, so the really important moment here is that we get a lot of closure for the show. In this moment, we also get Jonathan being like, glad you were here, like, better than it just being Steve. And Nancy, who's still dating Jonathan, in very much a kind of a flipped moment from the end of season 1, where she's still dating Steve, but interested in Jonathan. Now she's still dating Jonathan, and she has not told Steve to back off from his love.
With his dreams
professing.
of yes,
Of six babies with her.
Dreams of 6 kids and traveling in an RV and
Because Nancy has not told Steve to knock it off, there's this whole other meaning when Jonathan's like, oh man, I'm so glad you were here, better than it just being Steve. And Nancy looks over at Steve lustfully, looks back at Jonathan and goes, he's not so bad now. He's grown up a lot. And Jonathan's like, oh, okay. And then he's like, hey, are we okay? She's like, yeah. And we're like, oh, cool. So a little love triangle going into season 5 where one of her boys will be killed.
oh yeah, or both.
Or both. Or her.
Oof.
Dear Lord. I'm so scared for everybody dying. Of course, now we also have everybody back together and we get this moment of sort of, hey, Will's super important. And now we've had a couple of articles of the Duffer Brothers as this is all coming up going like, this show's about Will. And Sierra and I being like, it is? Season 4?
When?
It's not about Will at all. I swear this is a show about Ellen Hopper, but okay. I mean, it is about Will. Like, the first 2 seasons are so about Will.
Oh, yeah.
And like we said, like, Will's so... It seems like Will's so integral to this whole thing that's why they benched him in season 4. But we do have Will feeling the back of his neck with that chill, reminding us that he's somehow super connected to 11. Not 11, Vecna. Also, interesting theory that's popped up about Will is that Vecna may be in control of more people than you think. So, we know from Joyce that Will's birthday is March 22nd. In one of the video clips of, I think it's the skating rink or something of that nature in season 4, you see that it's March 22nd. And nobody is celebrating Will's birthday. Now, the Duffer Brothers did put out a statement saying that this was an administrative error and they didn't realize that they'd said it at this time. But some people are calling foul on that. The theory is that Vecna is starting to wipe away memories of Will. How do you escape Vecna? Through memories, like Max is doing at the Snowball. That's how you protect yourself. So if people are having less memories of Will, he'll start to be more susceptible to Vecna's powers. Now, this is all a theory, but if you go back and you look at one of the season 4 posters, they have this one where it's like all of these characters in little like rectangles. So it's, or somebody's compiled it into that where everybody had their own each individual character thing. Everybody is looking forward at the camera in their poster, except for 4 characters. The first one is Max. What do we know about Max in season 4? She's under Vecna's control. Who else is looking? Off to the side instead of straight at the camera? Jonathan, Joyce, and Mike. So it may be
interesting
that Vecna is slowly trying to erase information about Will so that Will cannot escape his control again. So that's theory number 1. Theory number 2 about Will is really interesting to me because it has to do with D&D lore around the character Vecna, which maybe we're working too much into the D&D lore, but given the Duffer Brothers' whole love of that game and the way that Stranger Things has been written, I don't think this is. So I'll quote from some TikTok user named The Film Stuff, which is where we got this. In Dungeons & Dragons, the Eye of Vecna is a legendary artifact. To use it, someone must sacrifice one of their own eyes and replace it with Vecna's. The reward is extraordinary. The host gains, what does Will have in Season 2? True sight. Which means seeing through illusions, darkness, and even invincibility. Along with the power to cast devastating spells such as Disintegrate, which can reduce a creature or object to nothing but dust. And Dominate Monster, which allows the wielder to seize telepathic control over any creature. But there's a catch. When someone other than Vecna wields the eye, it begins to corrupt them. The artifact twists the host toward evil, threatens their soul, and can even allow Vecna to take control of their body. Now, of course, in Stranger Things, this the film stuff goes on, who has always been marked by Vecna and the Upside Down, who was taken over by the Shadow Monster and forced to act as a host, Will. So this also includes a risk of exhaustion. And again, quoting, the Eye of Vecna includes the risk of exhaustion if it is activated repeatedly. Now, they have an image from season 5 where Mike is protecting Susiekins, by the way. She's in this still shot. With, it looks like Joyce is holding on to Will, and he looks absolutely exhausted in this shot. We'll put this on the TikTok, y'all, so that you can see it. We'll repost it. And then if you look back at the poster one last time, Will's bicycle matches exactly up with Vecna's clouded over eye that you can hardly see the pupil in, if at all. One last thing, there's a lightning strike above Vecna's head that looks like a human, right? And there's Vecna's hand. The hand is another legendary artifact. To use it, the host must cut off their own and attach Vecna's in its place. It grants enormous magical power, the ability to cast deadly spells, and even regeneration. Who was just kind of regenerated and healed? Max. By who? 11. The lore in D&D says that the eye and the hand of Vecna must be attached to the same person in order to be finally destroyed. And the only way is for that host to then be slain by the Sword of Cass. This could mean that 11 and Will are bound together in Season 5 Endgame, and then I'll put my own tidbit here, and then also both of them have to be killed in order to defeat Vecna. That's where I'll stop that theory on. But it's a fascinating little theory there.
Very, very interesting. I think for the first theory of the posters and the date. So as for the date, I can see a small mistake. I can also see, this is a show that had clock chimes 4 seasons before they were relevant.
Yeah.
So it is possible that it is intentional. I feel that the Duffer Brothers wouldn't have come out and just straight up said, no, this is why this happened. Oops. I don't think they would straight up lie to us. I think potentially that could very well really be an oversight. And I think that the posters, from someone who has a mild graphic design background, having them all look in the exact same direction would be fairly boring, and you do want some variety in your single character posters when you are creating a promo material. So I do feel like those can fairly easily be explained away, and I do like the idea, though, that Vecna is in more control than we think.
Yeah.
I also don't know that I see in the existing show how he could have done this and be erasing Will without having direct contact with any of the people, obviously besides Max, who we know he's had direct contact with. I don't know that we can figure out exactly how Vecna would have control over the minds of Jonathan, Joyce, and Mike. Yeah. So I kind of want to debunk that one. I like the idea, but I think it can be easily explained away.
I'm right there with you. I'm 100% with you. I think that theory is really interesting and has gained some traction. And it's like a fun little thought piece. But I think, I mean, it would be very easy to go back in and change March 22nd to be March 24th or whatever. Right. But I'm not that conspiracy-esque. And also, like, I think a lot of us got burned by theories like this in Game of Thrones. Yeah. And so I'm feeling a little wary of this one, which is fun, but I think hardly backed up. But go ahead with the next theory.
The second theory, I think, has some more credibility just based on the fact that Vecna is a D&D character, that they did go ahead and continue to call him Vecna within the show, not just taking ideas. I know that there's a lot of theories about the Eye of Vecna being an important element potentially in the next season, and who has it, and are we going to see, because especially we have the visuals of him potentially not having his eye, or it being damaged, clouded over and whatnot, and if that means that someone else is currently in possession of it or will be in possession of it is a very interesting idea that I think has a lot more credibility. And even if it's not the physical eye, it could still be the representation of it, as they have done within the show already. And I do think that many of our characters are in very great danger, and it seems weird to say I hope, but I hope a lot of them do perish, because
I think it's more satisfying for the narrative.
Exactly. It will be much more satisfying for what we've been building to, and especially the stakes that all of those will occur within, I think have the potential to be incredible. So the idea that we would continue this D&D thread that we have been pulling on since the opening sequences in season 1, I think would be really great. And I do really want more of that fantasy world to come through into this more sci-fi element.
Yeah. I want to be clear with the audience, just so that we don't sound like we're heartless. On a scale of like rolling Battle of Hogwarts to Game of Thrones, I want somewhere in between on character deaths, because like Game of Thrones was like, at the very end there, you were like, wow, this White Walker battle is going to decimate a lot of people. And there was like this whole second room with Jaime Lannister in it, and everyone was like, that whole room is going to die. And then we got to the end of the battle against the White Walkers. Sorry for spoilers, y'all. I should have put that in a little bit earlier. But we get to the battle of these White Walkers, and it's like, a couple, like 2 main characters were killed, and everybody else gets to keep going on. And then, like, you kind of get more mass violence later, but it all feels rather unsatisfying. Versus Battle of Hogwarts, it's like, wait, oh my gosh, I need to go back and reread that chapter. Who died?
Yeah.
Remus?
We walked into the hall, and there's a whole line of bodies.
And there's a whole line of important bodies that, like, you get no closure with. It's like, all right, so Lavender Brown maybe is dead. Remus and Tonks and Fred, and, like, you just keep going on, and you're like, and Colin Creevy? Did I just read that right? Is it Colin Creevy, like the photographer? And I don't need that. But I do think it is, in order to give a semblance of danger, of real stakes, we can't have it just keep being Barb, Bob, Billy, and Eddie.
Yeah.
Who I really want it to come out that his first name was Bartholomew and that he went by his middle name. Just so we get that B, that fourth B there. But I think that's important for us to feel stakes. I feel as though someone like Murray or Yuri is going to perish fairly early on to establish that. Sort of the way that Star Trek used to do red shirts, where at the beginning of the episode, they would kill off somebody wearing a red shirt, and that way you'd know it's real.
There's danger here.
There but danger here! Keep your finger on the pause button and rewind that tape. It's the prestige category. What did we notice on this watch through? Sierra, is this a terrible plan? Like, how did they not think the hive mind wouldn't get them?
I don't know that it's a terrible plan. I think
it's the only one they have.
It is the only one they have. And to be fair, they have a number of distractions so that at least the majority of this hive mind isn't paying attention to the important chess pieces moving into position. So it goes pretty well for quite some time. And then it goes terribly. And then it goes terribly wrong. However, this is also a group of human teenagers with no special abilities who just know interesting things fighting against a supernatural hive mind creature telepathic being conglomerate of evil. That's
true. You're not wrong.
I think I think, they do plan for the hive mind. They have the Eddie Dustin distraction specifically for what they think will try to defend Vecna. They know not to step on the vines. Potentially they think it's a physical interaction only scenario, and that the vines, while part of the hive mind, really will only move in reaction, kind of Venus flytrap-esque, which honestly I probably would think too from their experiences with the vines.
Yeah.
And so they do a pretty good job of attempting. I don't think it's terrible.
Okay.
It's not great.
They really, having
they almost
Robin
succeed.
Who they do. They almost succeed. And yet this is no game.
No.
It's not like they have a second life. So they until some outside forces from Russia and the desert intervene, they are dead.
Right. Besides a potentially terrible plan, something that I find bothersome. Elle's outfit? I know this seems nitpicky, but it really took me out of the episode. I know that shirt and that type of shirt was popular. I even in the 90s and early 2000s wore many like it, but I was also a child, and now, or, I guess, no, I was definitely a child at the time that I was wearing that. Now the look very much comes across like she's wearing pajamas to me. At least the shirt. And then she's got the high-waisted pants, which again, makes sense for the time period that she is in, but she's also supposed to be a child, very early teen. 14. And we're focusing way too much on her body for it to be comfortable for me.
Yeah, I'm there with you.
It makes me slightly uncomfortable how much they have framing her in the shot, and then we have these high-waisted pants, and we have this shirt, and it really takes me out, and it feels very awkward. And I know that it's not about what she's wearing. And this is absolutely nothing on Millie Bobby Brown. She didn't choose the costume, so it just really took me out. And then this is more important, but also something that really couldn't have been changed at this point. Elle being too old, or Millie Bobby Brown being too old for a 14-year-old makes Vecna's interactions with her creepier to me. Almost like he's preying on her rather than looking at her more like a potential daughter who could have followed in his footsteps. Something of that nature, more of a mentorship. I think it comes across much more creepy, which I guess good, but also maybe not what we're going for here. However, I do think that if all of the kids, teens, looked younger, like their characters are supposed to be, Mike's whole "I love you" speech would have less of an impact. Maybe? That's my thought. Kids don't know what love is. at least romantic love between each other. I think that the age that they're supposed to be, this kind of 14, is maybe when people are starting to kind of try to figure it out and might have some sort of semblance idea, but it definitely wouldn't feel as impactful. Like, "I love you." Coming from a 14-year-old, that's like, okay.
Yeah, totally.
And now, if you were a 14-year-old and you are still with the person that you were with at 14, I mean, good on you, but...
Yeah. I don't have that experience.
I don't have that experience. I don't think that it's very common.
I think what's interesting here...
Yeah.
I think what's interesting here is Vecna's supposed to be kind of parroting Brenner accidentally, where he's doing the same thing, where he's now wanting to father a child that is not his, and for specific purposes that go with him in a way that makes him feel a sense of control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
But it's hard to feel that way when instead of being 14 and 38, they're 21 and 33.
Right.
So, a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I know I pick on Mike a lot. Is Mike being the heart too cliche and boring for you, Sierra?
Honestly, I just don't think it makes sense.
Yes. Thank you.
I don't think it makes sense at all. When has he been the heart of the group?
He's been the heart for Elle.
Yeah, maybe, but
for the group?
She's not the group. I would argue Will's the heart out of all of them. And, you know, Will saying, Mike, you're the heart. It feels very odd because Will is the one who has most suffered at Mike's not being the heart. Ditching him for Elle, ditching him for other people.
Not wanting to play D&D with him.
Yeah, not wanting to be with him, not wanting to hang out with him, being on the receiving end of Mike's jab at Will not liking girls, and it just really does not track for me. And it's not just Will that he's done all these things to. He hasn't treated Lucas and Dustin with all that much
the utmost
love
respect.
and care.
It is. So in the first season, I think Mike very much is the heart because he's the one that's like, Will's alive, Will's doing this, and here's Elle, and I'm taking care of her just off the street, and I could bring us all together. And I think that, okay, you have a real through line for that. And Mike is there for Will in a way that Dustin and Lucas is not in season 1.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mike also stands up for Dustin in a way that is very much the heart when faced with Troy as well.
Yes. Yes, very much so. In season 2, the same thing is true to a lesser extent, that Mike is, like, there to help Will, right? His whole storyline is, like, helping Will out and telling him that he is the sight inside and he can be the enemy. Mm-hmm. And there's, like, some good-hearted moral, like, here's where we can go forward with this sort of stuff. But I don't really think he's been the heart since then. No. I think Max is really helping. Max and Lucas are really helping out, and Dustin are like my main sort of through line in season 3 with Steve and Robin and then Lucas and everybody. And then season 4, he's benched.
Yeah.
I like won't tell Elle that he loves her, and I'm just kind of like, okay. Yeah. I just feel like Mike is being pushed into this category that I certainly don't feel he's earned.
No, I would agree.
Okay, cool. Again, we agree too much, and there's somebody out there going, no, he's the best of them. What do you mean? Okay. Why does Mike professing his love do anything? Isn't 11 powers motivated by hate, or is this more a love is actually more powerful moment, Sierra?
I almost feel like it's more along the lines of there's still hope out here. Remember what you're fighting for, which I get. And I think that that's a valid thing. I don't quite understand why Mike loving her helps, because it does seem like later on we have her love of Max is what allows her powers to be so strong. And I think that also literally watching Max dying before her, you would think that, again, her friendship and her love with Max is what would be the most important thing. And so I think it is a little odd, but I do feel like it is really moving into the love is actually more powerful thing, which, again, I've been harping on since season 2 that I feel like that should have happened already. But I guess we're getting it now through Mike, ?
Through Mike, ? I also think it's interesting that they are trying to introduce it so late into the show as a way to power up over Vecna, and that I know that this has been sort of billed as a children's story, but it lives in this weird liminal space that like includes like late Harry Potter movies and Pirates of the Caribbean and some Star Wars movies where it's like people are like, these are for kids, and it's like, well, this is kind of for everybody. But this is a very simplistic message that love is more powerful than hate. It's, not particularly for adults, but we're entering it so late in such a simplistic stage that I'm kind of almost guarding against the way that they're doing it. which is unfair, but I just seen it done so poorly so many times before that I'm a little wary of what's going on, that it's just that simple. And that might,
right.
If it's not done, anything done right is done well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm worried about it not being done well or right. So,
right,
we'll
because then it becomes cliche.
Yeah. Interesting note here that when Vecna comes to kill Max, he shows her the POV of all of these different fights. So she sees Lucas and Jason fighting. How? We don't know. She sees Eddie and Dustin, which I assume is through Demobat's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
She sees a demo opening its flower mouth, not realizing that this is the USSR fight, right?
Yeah.
Is this how it is to be Vecna? Because of the hive mind, can he see everything like that? And is it through the mind flare that he's connected to the mind flare, and the mind flare is like the internet router that can go and see everything? Or is it the vines that he's just being able to see through? Or does he have the sight like Trelawney, but it's like everything? Or is this just a montage?
It really does seem like he is showing her something, because he does specifically call out that all of her friends are failing, and he's there to kill her, but they're all going to die as well. And I don't understand how he can actually show her these things. Potentially it is a montage and he has told her what is going on verbally, and obviously that's less interesting than just showing what's going on.
Yeah.
But it does seem odd, especially being able to show Lucas and Jason. The only thing I can think of is that it's because it's taking place physically in the same space that Vecna is physically, just in the Upside Down. But it does seem very odd, because at least
maybe watching through Max's eyes as he's taken over her body.
Oh,
maybe
that could be.
Yeah,
that could be that while she's looking through him, he's looking through her and can then see. I guess, now that you mention that, I did have a brief thought when I was watching it that that's how, because, oh, look, and I thought it was going to stop there. I kind of forgot that he shows all the rest of what's going on. I thought it was going to stop with just, well, look at what's happening while I have you. Look at your surroundings. If you were actually there, you could maybe put a stop to this. And so I think that makes sense that he's doing it through her. I don't understand how vines have eyes, so I don't know that visual makes sense. And I could see it being through the bats and through the Demogorgon and whatnot, but we're looking into the Demogorgon's mouth.
Right, so was it about to eat its own kind?
Right. Not from the Demogorgon, so it is a little off, which is why I do think that it is a visual montage from the filming standpoint, but I do think that he is showing Max at least part of that, or at least describing to her the situation that everybody is in.
Okay. Good. I accept this answer.
However, in two circumstances, I find myself yelling at the screen, "Dude, shoot him! The fire is not doing enough death."
So it's Vecna and the Demogorgon?
Yes.
Nice. Yes, of course.
Yes. So Hop with the Demogorgon, and then Steve, Nancy, and Robin with Vecna. And I feel that I definitely was upset at the adults for not handling the Demogorgon well enough, because
especially when Nancy and Jonathan did it so well in season 1.
Right. They can see what's going on. They can see that the Demogorgon is still up and running. They also, I guess, one side note is that Hop is out of bullets.
True.
However, I have absolutely no excuse for the flambe plan, because Nancy brought her shotgun for this reason and is standing there watching him burn and not die and walk menacingly towards them and is just standing there holding said shotgun.
She does shoot him eventually.
She does, but it takes a dang long time.
Forever. Steve and Robin are both side-eyeing Nancy like, okay, any time now. Maybe I don't want babies with you. I feel like you won't give it a bottle quick enough. It's been crying. Yeah, I hear you there. That's really funny. Switching notes. Is Max's and Eddie's death scenes the most emotional Stranger Things has gotten?
I think so.
The only other thing I can think of that gets close to it is Bob's death is really sad, but we don't really get that much time to stay with it, and they're not...
No.
Like, Eddie, I feel like it maybe is as emotionally important as Bob, but I feel like we get to know Eddie a little bit more, and his death scene is a little bit more emotional, because Dustin, is holding him when he dies. Max's, I feel like we don't touch, with maybe the exception of Sarah and Will's montage in season 1, where we watch Hop relive his daughter's death while reviving Will, which is different emotion, but maybe just as emotional.
Yeah, the only challenge that I will give is that I do cry during Bob's death.
It's terrible.
And so I definitely do actually shed tears then. And I don't know, maybe that's just because it's Sean Astin.
Sean Astin.
I love him.
But my potatoes!
Well, and it's also one of those, he almost made it.
Yeah.
And it just, you think everything's okay, and then it's not, and it's just that little gut wrench.
Yeah. Totally.
Whereas with Max and with Eddie, you know they're in danger. They're constantly in danger. There's not a moment that lets up to make you think that maybe they're going to get away before it happens.
Eddie has a moment where he can get away, but then he chooses, and you're with him in danger for much longer.
Right. So I feel like potentially it's just the rhythm and the pacing of those leading up to death and then death sequences. But I do feel like, especially from the acting that we get from Dustin and Lucas, absolutely so emotional and very, very upsetting and really, really heart-wrenching.
Speaking of the acting, Dustin does an incredible job in this entire episode, and I'm more emotional with him talking to Eddie's uncle than I am with a actual emotion scene, because of just how incredibly well on the teetering edge of losing it he is that entire scene, with the way the tears are in his eyes and his trembling chin and how real that all feels. Where it's like, that's true acting technique coming in a way that is like, it seems exceptionally difficult. I would put Eddie's death in terms of severity and emotion with Bob's, certainly. Like, you could tie it. I wouldn't argue that. I think that season 4's entire success is predicated on this Max Lucas dynamic. And the payoff with Lucas's acting in that scene is what makes season 4 so good to me. Even with a bunch of the complaints that we've discussed. It feels like there's this sort of behind the scenes about Fred and George's death in Deathly Hallows, where the actor who plays George says, yeah, after like a take or two, and I'm looking down at, my actual twin playing his corpse, I felt it and went immediately into and you only see it for a split second, and the actor talks about how he wishes that scene could have been out a little bit more, because he feels like that was, one of his finest acting moments, essentially. And you can see, like, there's a meme of it where that you look at Percy's actor, who's doing a phenomenal job at acting a very different sort of mourning, and then versus George. And you can also tell that, like, the difference when he says, like, I actually fell into this dark place of thinking that was really my brother, and those were my real emotions of thinking that he's dead, versus like acting, which both are very appropriate for that moment. And I don't like the fact that people make fun of Percy, but it is, you can see the stark difference. And to me, that's the level that Lucas is in.
Yes.
Like, just hold on and I'm with you and no. And just the way that he plays that doesn't feel cliche. It feels, I don't know if fresh is the right word, but it feels so vivacious.
Right.
That even if it's not the most fresh take on begging someone to stay alive, it feels that way because it's so well acted. And we get to that line, Erica, help, where he's looking over his shoulder. And that's when I'm like, oh my gosh. Like this is, that line hits me inside of me, like everywhere. Yeah. It is painful and it is gorgeous at the same time.
Yeah. It's truly phenomenal. Caleb McLaughlin really nails this.
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate perhaps that he hasn't been given more emotional range within the character over the last few seasons. He's, very upset at Elle season 1 and kind of has those anger moments, and he does seem to kind of fall by the wayside slightly and is relegated almost to kind of Max's sidekick
at times,
a little bit. And I feel like this is where he really gets to shine, and shine he does.
Yeah, certainly.
Because that sequence really only has the emotional tenor that it does because of him.
Yeah, certainly. Oy, he's excellent in it. Last little note here before we move on into our sort of mischief categories, as I call them in my head. Anyone who has played the Spider-Man Sony video game will understand when I say I feel like Aunt May is missing in the shelter scene.
Yes. Yes,
in that video
definitely.
game, she's like a major component at a shelter, and it's like, it feels like they just like robbed that setting from the video game. We're like, good, this is what a shelter should look like. And so I'm like, May, where are you? Where's your ward, Peter?
Sam, you don't always have to face down a horde of angry soldiers by yourself. Buckle up, Schmissners, because it's our Sansa is smarter than John category. For what is the most important character moment?
I have 2, actually.
Okay.
First one, is it Nancy saying that Steve has really grown up? Setting up this kind of whole love triangle moment? Or is it Eddie deciding not to run and going out to the bats to face them to provide a longer distraction so that the hive mind can't focus solely on just the 3 teens?
Between the 2, I would give it to Eddie.
Yeah.
I have a contender for this as well,
okay.
Which is Will saying, now that I'm here in Hawkins, I can feel him. He's hurt, but he's still alive. I can still remember what he thinks and how he thinks. We have to kill him.
So I don't disagree with you. I think that may be the actual biggest character moment. Inside my soul, I have a very difficult time with the idea of the most important character moment of the finale is for a character that's been benched. Versus, one of the reasons why I put it for Nancy is that Nancy has this entire growth arc with Steve, showing us, and sort of culminating in this big turnaround from season 1. And it also sets up like tension and stuff for season 5 versus, Will sets up the major tension for season 5. So you're right there. It's just hard to be like, and Will gets it. He stole it.
Yeah, I can see that. I think for me, it also is a little bit difficult to give most important character moment for someone who it was imposed upon instead of someone who grew to that moment.
Yeah, totally.
So for that reason, I do feel like giving it to Eddie here.
Yeah.
However, the moment of I can still remember what he thinks and how he thinks, speaking specifically about Vecna, when we know that the Mind Flayer was the one in his head.
Yeah.
That's insane.
True. Can we do...
But again, imposed upon him.
Yeah. We'll do a first place, second place, third place on that one. He's on the podium.
There you go.
I know you just lost a hand arguing with me, Sierra, but listen up. It's the I am your father category for most iconic character moment. There is only one iconic character moment. I feel like this is on the same level as any of the iconic character moments throughout the show. Van flipping, that's
Waffle
the only one that comes
stealing.
to mind. Yeah, thank you very much. Demogorgon, bat swinging, you name it. Sauna diving, all of it. Romance novel cover seducing. It's Eddie shredding his guitar.
Yes.
There's
Definitely.
nothing else. There's nothing else that can beat
It's
it.
iconic.
All right. That's it. It's Eddie shredding his guitar.
Everybody sit down. It's time for our I Am Iron Man. Most iconic and most important scene category.
Go ahead and give me yours first.
Mine is the gang standing on the hill at the border where all of the plants are living on one side and dead on the other as the particles fall from the sky.
It's so
Vitally
important. And it's so iconic.
Very
It's the
iconic.
last shot.
Yep.
However, I'm kind of having a same, like, Will versus Eddie. And I think it's just kind of like where we're placing the emphasis on the episode. Because to
Right.
me, I'm like, it's not about the resolution to me, it's about the climax.
Okay.
And you're going very much with the resolution, with the revolution. Lafayette?
You say you want a revolution.
Oh,
We
different
both went two
song
very different
entirely.
directions. That's fine.
You're very much going with the resolution of everything. So to me, it's the flambe sequence. Vecna's actual body in the Upside Down is Molotov cocktailed and shotgunned. The Demogorgon is then sliced up like sushi. 11 kicks one's butt in Max's mind. Lucas punches the daylights out of Jason, and Eddie sacrificing himself to save everyone while Dustin limps over to him. I think that is the most important and iconic scene category.
I have a hard time with that, though. And I'm going to parse here.
Because
It's not
a
one scene.
But we gave it to the sequence in season 1 for their finale. We gave it to the Hopper, Sarah, Will sequence.
Yes, but I would argue that that's more one scene because it is one thing that is happening.
That's you might have me on that one.
Five
I was
things
about to
that
say,
are all happening at
in
once.
the Supreme Court of 2, that is us. There is precedent for this ruling. But I think you're right. I think... man.
If you were to say most iconic and most important, and you said Vecna's body, Molotov cocktail, shotgunned, but still alive,
yeah,
I may.
I'll give you this instead. It's Max dies, gates open, Jason split in 2. Gate opens.
Gate opens. I can give you gate opens.
Okay, excellent.
I will give you gate opens. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, crack open encyclopedia, you loser. As
I need
Elijah
to
Wood
read
once...
up on the word loser.
Here's the definition of losers. Look, the encyclopedia, it now includes your name. It's Carl Malone and then Sierra Obermark. We skipped N entirely. That's such an unnecessary shot at basketball legend Karl Malone. He happened to lose to Michael Jordan a bunch. Like, he still won a lot. It just wasn't the championship. Anyways, that's the NBA. Back to Stranger Things. Crack open an encyclopedia, you nerds. As Elijah Wood once said, no, how could we have known? Where we discuss the most important information disseminated to the fandom over this final episode. Tell me about it.
All right. The first thing that is very important. Elle isn't strong enough.
Yes.
She's not by herself. Not how she is right now. She might be stronger than she was, but she's not strong enough. The next thing. Will was taken and infected by Vecna specifically because he can feel him and knows how he remembers how Vecna thinks.
Yeah. That's important. Just so we know. Speaking of Will, I am even more convinced that Vecna took Will than I ever have been, because I rewatched the first episode recently, of season 1, not of season 4, of season 1. I also re-listened to our episode where we were like, is this Vecna or is this not, in the season 1, in our very first Fandom Schmandom episode. Right. And I was like, I think it is, and you were like, I think it's not. And so here I am to prove you wrong.
I proved myself wrong, but continue.
You did. You did eventually get on. But here I am to prove your past self even more wrong.
I love it. Continue.
Past Sierra. Column A. The light bulb flickers in season 1 in the shed. So I'm going backwards, okay? Going backwards from when Will is taken. Light bulb flickers right before he's taken. That's echoed throughout all of season 4 with when Vecna moves around, the light bulb flickers.
Right.
Okay, so that's not the best evidence. The Demogorgon also makes light bulb flickers later, and Will can make things and all sorts of things. Okay, fine. The buyer's chain lock in the house is opened by telekinetic powers.
Yep.
Okay, that's weird. That's suspicious. Are you still not convinced? Fine. Will, throughout season 1, sings, "Should I stay or should I go?" And is only found after he's fading and can't really sing it anymore. Okay? Which, how does Max escape from Vecna's? By running up that hill. Music indeed. But here's the final nail in the coffin. You and I freaked out in season 3 when Vecna's clock, the full sound of Vecna's clock, sounds when Billy is talking to the abductive lifeguard. Heather?
Heather, yes.
Heather. We freaked out about it. We missed it on this first rewatch. At the 6-minute mark of season 1, episode 1, Vecna's clock rings when Will falls off the bike. It's fainter. It's harder to hear, but it is Vecna's clock, and you cannot deny anymore, past Sierra, that Vecna is the guy.
I love it.
Good.
Take that, past Sierra. Dum-dum.
All right, here's another thing about Vecna. Vecna was sent to the Upside Down by 11, and he couldn't reopen the door, and he needed L to reopen the door so that he could come back to Hawkins, and then also everything has been done by him, so that's a good thing. Just so we know. Just to keep that in mind, everybody.
Indeed, indeed. Well, keep your horses safe. It's the I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse category for best lines. All right, I've got a few here. I've got a bad feeling about this.
Crazy Star Wars reference, fine. I accept.
First ever mind fight held in a pizza dough freezer. Pretty rad, right?
I hate Argyle so much in that moment.
And I never should have knocked. I thought I wanted to be like you. Popular. Normal. But it turns out, normal's just a raging psychopath.
It's a great Lucas line, but I raise you my personal favorite of Lucas's lines. Erica, help!
Ugh, gut-wrenching.
All of my lines that I chose are bummers.
We're so sad. Speaking of so sad, I think it's my year, Henderson. I think it's finally my year. I love you, man.
Okay, you just break my heart. It's fine.
That's what I'm here for. Then we've got, I piggybacked from a pizza dough freezer.
It's a great line.
It's just, okay, sure. We know what all of those words mean together with no context.
Yep.
This one just cracked me up a little bit. It's the news, now indistinguishable from the tabloids. My, Mr. Wheeler, you have come a long way from... This is our government. They're on our side.
I've got Elle and Hopper meeting. Finally. For the first time since Elle thought Hop died. And she says, I kept the door 3 inches. Or kept the door open 3 inches. That's so sad. And also, good job for you. And also, like, Mike wasn't around, so it really didn't matter. My personal pick, though, of all of these is I didn't run away this time, right? From Eddie as he's dying because of his... Yeah. I guess we're going to debate whether or not it was a life-saving tactic or not in... Dust off that card deck and get ready to shuffle. It's our Joker category for who is the MVP of this episode. It is hard, Sierra, for me to not give it to Eddie.
Okay.
I am aware that I have a certain proclivity for his character because I find him the most interesting part of this season other than Max.
Mm-hmm.
But however, I will also say that there are rooms to be made for Max for story reasons, to Dustin for acting reasons, and to Lucas for acting and story reasons. Dustin delivering Eddie's eulogy to his uncle is incredibly moving. And there's no moment more emotional for me than when Lucas pleads for Erica to help, as I've stated. However, Eddie does a lot in this moment, where he goes out and keeps the Mind Flayer / the Hive Mind divided in what he is doing. Your turn.
Okay, so I love Eddie. I do. I really do.
Hold on, I need my shotgun. Wait, I'll be back.
I just want to talk to her.
I just want to talk. Hold on. I just want to talk.
However, rewatching, I was struck by almost how unnecessary his death is, because his sacrifice doesn't seem to accomplish a ton. Because the bats are already...
Shut your mouth!
Okay, but the bats are already distracted.
By what?
By the trailer. Well, they made all this noise. They're trying to get in the trailer. They don't know that they're not in the trailer
so
anymore.
Accurate. It was so stupid. I read this comment of yours and I went back to the episode and I was like, that can't be... It is. It's true.
Yeah. So... he could very well just go back into the real world. They could block off the gate somehow or create some sort of, weapons barrier so that the bats can't get into the trailer and then get into the real world. He instead goes back through, gets rid of their way to get back into the real world, which also... how did Nancy and Steve and Robin get back? Because he took away how they
There's an enormous gate open in Hawkins now. Yeah.
Well, now, but they didn't know that was going to be a thing. Eddie's
I know,
whole
he does
thing is
doom
that
them
this
to,
was...
the lake.
Yeah. Eddie kind of screws them over a little bit.
Certainly.
And then just takes off, leading the exact same already distracted group, not more, away farther? Closer to where the other people are? We don't know. He just goes not very far before he gets knocked off the bike.
Yeah, enough distance for Dustin to limp over to him.
Exactly. So, I'm sorry, but I don't think that I can go with Eddie. Hear me out, I have to go with Lucas.
Yeah.
It's not just for the acting,
right.
Although, wow, as we have already stated. He stops Jason from disrupting the whole situation with Max, potentially killing everyone by pulling her out too early and having Vecna chase them all down and knowing exactly what they're up to and coming to as Steve and Nancy and Robin are right there. His fight with Jason also distracts the person who has Erica pinned down, saving her as well, and allowing her to save herself in that moment. And on top of that, he is the heart here, giving Max really something to come back to and to have hope in.
So, certainly.
So I really think it's Lucas.
I think you're right, but hear me out on 3 pound for pound arguments.
I would love to hear your pound for pound arguments.
Okay.
It's Murray. No.
Pound for pound, it's Yuri. He does not. No, that's a total joke. There's no way it should be Yuri. He gets Hopper back. Cool. And Joyce, I suppose. No, there's a pound for pound case to be made for Argyle, who, in is the only reason why Elle ends up in the mind fight at all. I guess all pizza makers are druggies in some way, shape, or form, so he speaks the language of drugness and gets them to keep it open and gets the salt and everything. So there's a pound-for-pound argument to be made for that, but I will still scratch him off the list because I can't give a winner to the desert people. There's a pound-for-pound argument to be made for Will, who's in this episode very little, who tells everybody he's hurt at the end. And also, he's the one that tells Mike that gets 11 to help Max. It's a little space ballsy there. It's like, yes, he's my brother's sister's college roommate's boyfriend.
Yeah.
So again, total joke, not really meant. There's another option for Mr. Clark here, and I really want you to hear me out on that. I'm getting out of the kidding.
What?
He taught everybody everything they know. The only reason why they know how to make Molotov cocktails is because Mr. Clark is a fantastic science teacher. Vecna's only flambéed because of Clark, and I'm sure, just like they took out Ollivander at the beginning of Deathly Hallows, they're gonna take out Mr. Clark at the beginning of season 5. No, I agree. I think it's Lucas, and I love Eddie, and I really want him to have a win, but also I think this is Lucas's trophy for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, amidst your disappointment, clean your evil lair and get ready for our I was the turkey all along category. What is the biggest takeaway viewers should leave with in preparation for season 5?
Honorable mentions, Will can feel 1.
Oof.
Honorable mention number 2, 1 took 11's powers in season 3 so he could open the gate. And also, how did he open the gates in season 1? That's fine. The real one, though, is it was 1 all along. Disappointed or not, that is a takeaway that we have to know for season 5. It's the public service announcement we all need. And here's the one that we don't need, but it's what we deserve. Do not, under any circumstance, go to Indiana. It is the literal gate to hell, and I am not even from Ohio.
That's good. Thank you, dear listener schmissners, for listening to this episode of Fandom Schmandom. If you'd like to discuss this episode or any other episode we've done, please hit us up on our social media channels. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Fandom Schmandom Pod, and on X at Fandom_Schmandom.
It really helps the algorithm place us in front of the other like-minded schmissners out there. And with that, we're out, y'all.
Don't forget to tip your pizza delivery boys.
Fairly well.
Fandom Schmandom was created by Sam Williams and Sierra Obermark. The show is produced by Aurelia Lieb. The editor is Brittany Fisher. The music is by Jeremiah Alves.
Welcome to Sam's new microphone. Restarting. Max falls to the ground where Lucius.
Luchador.
And Luchador, the man Lucas the Luchador, waves his red flag and Jason bullhorns into the side of the wall. I don't know what accent that is, and I don't know where that came from, so I apologize to all people of the world. Wait, it is 1? Yes, no, cool. I read it correctly. Good for me. Yes. It is 1 like, with the Force, like and then Obi-Wan comes in, and this is how we have Stranger Things meets up with Star Wars.
Like no, that. In order to do that, we gotta do a... Bob is Samwise, and Samwise is with Legolas, and Legolas is
with Will Turner.
Is Will Turner, and then you just go on a
keep
whole
spiraling until you get back into Hawkins. Yeah,
exactly.
It's a very Patty Oswalt speech from Parks and Rec. He's
this
like,
is true.
Have you ever seen Little Shop of Horrors?
Yes.
Steve is Audrey, where he's like, in a garden by the sea. Yeah. She mows the lawn while I watch on our big enormous 12-inch screen. I'm her December groom. She's Nancy. She knows best. She's got guns to combat me while our children play chess. like that's Steve, is it not?
Yes, it so is.
Let me pull up the posters real quick because I won't remember. So vamp for a second, Sierra. Do something funny for the blooper. Do it now.
You can't see, but I'm juggling fire. That just takes me into Madagascar, 3, whatever one where they are in Paris. Circus, afro, afro. It's like circus, afro. No,
that's so funny, yeah.
Now is Sierra's ASMR, part of the podcast. Bubbles.
Bubbles. Bobby Newport.
Highlighter on a post-it. A candle labeled Marshmallow Fireside. Green lights blinking steadily. Cat scratching at the door because they can't possibly imagine a world where they're not let into a certain area. How dare I close the door? 2 hours later.
Here's for Dustin, for acting reasons, Dustin delivering